the birth and destiny of Òbàrà Méjì. At that moment, Òbàrà Méjì decided that the time had come to depart for the earth. Before leaving heaven, he sent for his Ifa priests to perform divination for him. The Awosays were called Wosemi Kepelembe Kepelembe, Kromi Mimi Mimi, Lake Ori Udikoko Ni Kapa Eron, Lembe Lembe Abebe, Uni Moju Oloja Titurin Rin Rin. He was told that to bring prosperity to the world, he needed to make a sacrifice with a goat to his Ifa, adding a barrel of kola nuts and giving a male goat to Isu. He made the sacrifice and departed for the earth. He was born to a father who only had his left hand, while his mother was blind in one eye. Despite their physical disabilities, they had many enemies. It was Òbàrà Méjì who introduced dreams to the world, as he was always revealing imminent dangers to his parents while in the womb. While still in the womb, the elders of the night saw that a child who would bring prosperity to the earth was about to be born, and they decided that he should not be born alive. One night, he told his father in a dream to prepare a medicine in a soap costing 35 cents for bathing with it, in order to protect himself from the attack of the elders of the night. In the dream, he told his father that when he collected the leaves, he should leave them overnight at the sacred place of Isu. The next morning, he should grind and mash them with soap to bathe both of them. Eventually, Òbàrà Méjì was born without difficulties, and they no longer had problems with the elders of the night. When he was born, his parents went to an Ifa priest to seek divination for the day of his birth. The awa was called Afenju Omo, Omo Ariki Kom Fene Fene, Kbobig Biteg Bite Ya Alumen, Ite Onaye Magba, Nio Nigbe Ite Orun. Òbàrà Méjì was the only child his parents had. He quickly grew up to become a rascal. He was always saying things that made no sense to all the older Awasis of Ifa, and they were not happy with him. At a very young age, he attended the meetings of the elders, where he often became the center of attention. There was a meeting of the elder Awosays that was held every 17 days in the palace of the king of Ifa. The game of Ayo was frequently played after the meeting, although it often ended with the death of one of the king's sons. At the first meeting he attended, Òbàrà Méjì drank a lot, and after getting drunk, he boasted that at the next meeting he would reveal the names of those responsible for the periodic deaths of the king's sons. There was a high chief named Oshin, who was clandestinely carrying out all the atrocities. After the young Òbàrà Méjì's proclamation, the meeting dispersed with the tacit agreement that if he did not fulfill his promise, he would be executed. Convinced that Òbàrà Méjì could not reveal their names, the conspirators devised a plan to kill him. They sat on the bush path to conspire, while Òbàrà Méjì's mother, whom they did not know, was returning from the farm and overheard the men organizing the nefarious plan against her son. After hearing the details, she ran home to consult her Ifa priests, previously mentioned, about how to save the life of her only son. The mother was advised to prepare 3 mashed yams and 3 pots of soup and take everything to the riverbank. She was to wear a bead around her waist when going to the river, and there she should bathe. While bathing, she would discover what she had to do to save her son's life. She went home and did as she was told. Upon reaching the river, she placed the mashed yam and soup on the bank and entered the water to bathe. While she was bathing, a man named Okpolo arrived at the place and greeted her. The man quickly bathed in the river and hurried out. When the woman asked why he was in such a hurry, the man replied that he was getting ready to attend the meeting of the day at the king's palace. She invited him to eat some of the food she had left at the riverbank before he left. As no food was generally served during the lengthy meetings held at the king's palace, which explains why the king's sons were being killed, Okpolo was very pleased before heading to the meeting. While eating, the man mentioned that an important event was going to take place at the king's conference that day, as they were going to kill the talkative and insolent Òbàrà Méjì, as he would not know which section of the Ayo players was responsible for the deaths of the king's sons, as he had proclaimed. He ended up revealing to the woman that he, Okpolo, was in fact one of the conspirators because the king was so stingy that he never served food or snacks at the long meetings. Another man who passed by there was Obuko, who behaved almost in the same way. After eating the mashed yam, he told the woman the details of his mission for that day, adding that he was one of those killing the king's sons, due to his stinginess. He also revealed that as one of the conspirators, he was among those who were going to kill the talkative and boastful Òbàrà Méjì at the conference, because he would never know their names. Then he introduced himself to the woman as Obuko Omo Lubabere Tube, and said that the others were Agbo Omujojo Gule and Okpolo Emi Sosu Run. He finished by confirming that they were the 3 conspirators who were killing the sons of Olofen after playing the game of Ayo. Moreover, he revealed that Òbàrà Méjì had boastfully promised to reveal the name of Oshin as the sole conspirator, while he in fact would not be occupying his seat at the conference that day. He added that Oshin's eldest son, Aremo, was going to take his father's place at the meeting while his father would sit next to him. Finally, he informed that a special seat was going to be prepared for Òbàrà Méjì, under which there was a hole covered with a mat. The indiscreet Obuko continued saying even that the only way Òbàrà Méjì could avoid the fate that awaited him was by coming with a dog, a bundle of Echo, and Akara. If he threw Echo and Akara on the mat under the chair reserved for him, his dog would go to fetch them. The woman emphasized that it would be a good deliverance if Òbàrà Méjì died, since the village would become a more peaceful place. With this, Obuko departed for the king's palace. Agbo was the last to arrive at the river. He also performed the revelation ritual after eating the mashed yam, and confirmed what Okpolo and Obuko had revealed before him. He also confessed why and how they planned to kill Òbàrà Méjì. After eating his portion of the mashed yam, Agbo left for the conference. Shortly after, the mother of Òbàrà Méjì left for her home to inform her husband and son about what had happened at the river. She quickly detailed the sequence of events, telling Òbàrà Méjì what he had to do. He was to go with his dog named Boghoye Aje Ejobi. She advised him to throw Echo and Akara under the seat prepared for him and to call the dog to pick them up. If the dog fell into the hole, he was to stand up and ask for the person named Obuko. As soon as this person identified themselves, Òbàrà Méjì was to order that they be offered in sacrifice to Isu. Next, he was to ask for the person named Agbo, and if they identified themselves, he was to order that they be offered as a sacrifice at the public sacred place of the village ancestors. Finally, he was to ask for the person named Okpolo, and as soon as they identified themselves, he was to order that an arrow be driven through their mouth and anus, offering them afterward as a sacrifice to the divinity of the soil, Oriolo. When asked why the 3 men should be executed, he was to reveal that they had been the conspirators responsible for the death of the sons of Olofen, after having played the game of Ayo with them. After this episode, he was to order that the man on the throne step down because he was an impostor and that he should give way to his father Oshin, who at that moment would be smoking a long pipe called Ekitibe by the side of the hall. When Òbàrà Méjì left for the conference, he was wearing his father's suit called Gbarye and his hat called Labagaden. He went with his dog named Boghoye Atoju Ma Oko. Upon arriving at the main entrance of the village meeting hall, the spectators began to sing in praise, with shouts of Òbàrà Méjì Afenju Omo. Upon entering the hall, he was quickly led to occupy the chair reserved for him. At this moment, he remained still, took out his bag of Iko and Akara, and threw them under the seat marked for him, instructing his dog to fetch them. The dog went straight for them, but fell through the mat into the deep hole, whose bottom was covered with hooks and spikes. Reversing the order in which he was supposed to perform the task that day, he began by ordering the man who was sitting on the throne to step down immediately to make way for Chief Oshin, his father. The man on the throne quickly got up, and his father moved to occupy the seat. Then he called the man named Obuko and ordered him to stand up and identify himself. He also called Okpolo and Agbo to stand up and identify themselves. All did as they were told. Òbàrà Méjì instructed that Obuko be sacrificed to Isu, Agbo to the public sacred place of the ancestors, and Okpolo to Mother Earth, Oriolo. When Oshin asked Òbàrà Méjì about the crime committed by the 3 men, he reminded him of the promise made at the previous meeting to uncover the conspirators responsible for the deaths of Olofen's sons after playing the game of Ayo with them. He confirmed that the 3 men were the culprits. After this, the 3 men were used for sacrifice. The actual culprits were the male goat, the ram, and the frog. All those present then rose and applauded deafeningly, cheering for Òbàrà Méjì. He was carried on shoulders and taken out in an open procession. Òbàrà Méjì's parents, before he left the house, had sworn to commit suicide if their only son lost his life in the encounter. As soon as the father heard the shouts, he concluded that his son was dead and took his own life. When the mother saw him being carried on shoulders in a triumphal procession, she removed her head from the noose of the rope she had hung, prepared to commit suicide. She then used the rope, oha uotsa, to give thanks to her own mother. This is the rope that people use to tie the sacred place of their deceased mothers in places in the Yoruba and Beni lands to this day. It is for this reason that it is said that it was the mother of Òbàrà Méjì who saved him from the cold hands of death. When Òbàrà Méjì appears in Ogbodu during the initiation ceremony of Ifa, the person should be told that if their father is still alive, his end is near. The person should be strictly forbidden from drinking wine. They should also avoid sharing an inheritance from a deceased person. 3 days after appearing in Ogbodu, they must prepare the sacred place of Isu, their Ifa. After this, they should buy a guinea for their mother, if she is alive, to serve her head on their behalf. If she is dead, it should be used to serve the sacred place of their mother or on the big toe of their left foot. They should also serve their own head with 2 guineas. Next, they should prepare sacred places for the divinities, Ogun and Aziza for them. If Òbàrà Méjì appears in the divination of Iken, the person should be advised to quickly serve their head with a dove or a bird. If it appears for a pregnant woman, she can be told with certainty that she will have twins. When Òbàrà Méjì appears in Okpele divination, the person should be told to serve Ogun and Aziza with a rooster each. They should be advised not to enter any financial contribution, as Zusu, with anyone. They should also be permanently careful about joining any club or group, lest an untimely death arises from there,